launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys blasting off with Hoon Kim. He's the CTO of Astar Network, although he does a whole lot more than that. But we'll get into that in this conversation. Hoon, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you because you are the man who thought up and created the legendary Dapp staking.
Well, about that, so technically speaking, I'm actually the second CTO of Astar Network, or Stake Technologies to be specific.
Right.
Yeah. So we had a previous CTO, and Dapp staking as a concept, and I believe the name as well, was first conceived by the previous CTO. And the purpose, the vision behind it, and I guess the driving force is now mostly shaped by me.
Yeah.
So it's like I would like to consider it as like a continuous work between the two.
What happened to the other CTO?
Well, I mean, after our network launched, we sort of agreed that we want to move away and work on another project.
Yeah.
And he gave me the title of CTO.
Astar used to be called WASM, and you were working on basically layer 2 solutions for Ethereum.
Yes, we were called Plasma Network at first, and the reason is because we were bringing the Plasma layer 2 protocol, which was first proposed by both Vitalik Buterin and I believe the person who also proposed the Lightning Network for...
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like the granddaddy of layer 2, essentially, Plasma Network. And we were implementing that in Rust for Substrate as a palette.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So the idea was to essentially have a palette, and we proposed a grant, a Web3 grant for this idea, and our business model behind initially was to host the Plasma nodes.
Right.
Well, any network just implement that palette and use that.
And then what was the process to what you guys got to now, which is kind of like, you were framing it as like the Dapp hub of Dotsama for a while.
Way how we started, say, first it was, of course, layer 2, but most importantly, it was always about smart contracts. Layer 2 was really just a way that we felt like that's how we should scale the applications, the dApps. But if you think about it, Polkadot itself is also a scalability solution, right? Because it's layer 0 and it's using sharding.
Yeah.
So, of course, having layer 2 is definitely beneficial, and we did not give up on that. We do have a grant on ZK Planck implementation, and we also did OVM implementation as well. So there's like so many layer 2s.
Yeah.
It's still smart contracts, and layer 2 is a little bit difficult because it requires so much infrastructure. Layer 2 is definitely going to be there eventually, but if we want to deliver something where people can use right away without destroying us as an organization, smart contract platform, like that's really the way to go. And we were always into WASM, really. WASM contract, the contract palette Inc. I believe, yes, our previous CTO was also one of the first contributors to the Inc. Platform language itself, and also we created the Inc. playground before the current playground was a thing. But as a standalone chain, it works fine. There's no problem with it.
Yeah.
But as a parachain, there are some POV issues, which was resolved thanks to Parachains' great work. But that was sort of the limitation that we had, and hence why we had to use EVM, because we still wanted to achieve that smart contract platformness and onboard ecosystem projects to our network into the Polkadot ecosystem. But since WASM was not in a usable state, we had to go with EVM first. So we had this idea of having a multi-virtual machine environment.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess, that's sort of the rationale behind our decisions to move away, not really away, but I guess going beyond layer 2 and just focusing on as a smart contract platform first and foremost. Layer 2 as more of an add-on solution that can enhance that experience. Because we decided to make our own blockchain, right? And that's also the reason why we changed our name from Plasma Network to Astar Network. Because when we say Plasma Network and we were implementing the Plasma protocol for Substrate, everyone called us the Plasma Network. And that caused a lot of confusion. So branding-wise, it was a little bit difficult. And also, our network was not just about Plasma. We had OVM, we had ZK Planck. So everyone's just calling us Plasma.
So how's WASM coming? I mean, as far as like the developers go, or like any applications being built? Where are we at?
Right now, we rolled out the contract palette to Shiden network, our sister network in Kusama.
Yeah.
And it's just the first public parachain to support WASM contracts now. So that's a huge milestone.
Yeah,
and
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and Parity, we had a lot of support from Parity as well, and we are working together closely to really deliver this and push the ecosystem.
Wow.
Currently, we have the DIA WASM Oracle implemented by DIA. And we're also working with the Polkadot for a NFT marketplace implementation.
You are?
Yep.
Interesting.
And we are. This is also in the backlog, but we are also considering on having a implementation of the remark standard.
Oh, no way.
So there's going to
Sick.
be a lot. Yeah,
Cool.
going
Very
on.
cool. Okay, so Polkadot's building a marketplace in Ink.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
It's still in the heavy development phase.
Right.
So sadly, I cannot say that the WASM ecosystem is big at this stage.
Right.
Because a lot of projects
Starting from zero.
Exactly. They have to create from zero, and that's also by design because with EVM, it's so easy for projects to just fork existing stuff.
Right.
Just deploy it again, just change the name. I think I've gave like several talks about how much I dislike that practice. Yes, it just prevents innovation from happening. Like, don't get me wrong, the existing established projects are great, and that's what makes money, and that's what just brings adoption and also value to the smart contract platform itself. But that's not. I don't think that's a sustainable method of growth. It as a starting strategy, that's totally fine, and we do have a lot of those projects as well.
Yeah.
In our ecosystem.
True.
Yeah, but I wouldn't really encourage it, and I feel like we should go beyond that, and our answer to that question is WASM.
Okay, so what does WASM development look like 5 or 10 years from now?
It's going to be a little bit different, and the reason why I say this is because the thing about Substrate is you're able to create your custom logic, and through chain extensions, you can inject those logic directly to the contract. So depending on your Parachains value proposition, contracts will have different features that they can use. We're working with Parity as well to create the chain extension for XCM. So contracts can compose XCM messages directly within the contract. And that means they can leverage features from other parachains alongside our parachains. We're going to mix and match different use cases of other parachains. Use cases will always be different. Maybe the actual value that they provide could be something similar, it could be categorized in a similar way, but the methodology will always be different. And if it's not different,
It's interesting.
then it won't really survive.
Right.
Yeah, and that's also the thing about Dapp staking is we want to ensure that projects that provide value are incentivized. We want to encourage projects to really work to create something that users want to use and continue to see. And through Dapp staking, users can directly support those projects. So that's how we encourage innovation to happen.
How have you seen Dapp staking working in practice? What have you noticed? Has there been any abuses of the system, or has there been any use cases that you guys didn't imagine happening?
I mean, of course, there's always a way to abuse things, and I will say, probably there are a lot of cases that I'm not aware of.
Right.
Yeah. So can't really say much on that too much, but I will say it does, right now as it is, it does provide some incentives to the developers, and we did receive a lot of positive feedback from the ecosystem projects. I know a couple of projects were actually using Dapp staking in a very interesting, novel way. So a DAO can get listed on Dapp staking, and the staking rewards actually goes to their treasury, and then they use that to fund other teams or other projects. And
that's very cool.
No, it's so interesting because I never really thought of using it that way, because I always assumed it's going to be a small creator just using those funds to maintain the servers and just uses that to keep their lights up. But with treasury and using that money again to some other projects it's very interesting. So this is an idea that I actually just had in my back of my head, and I just wrote it down as part of the hackathon bounties. Okay. And that was like a micro Dapp staking. So you have a big contract where you can just everyone can stake on that contract, but that actually would be connected to a smart contract where the contract can fund other small NFTs or individual projects through the big contribution.
Oh, coming from its main source of funding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool.
And you can create a UI where you can have like a meta Dapp staking.
Yeah.
Where, for example, you can have like a art gallery, NFT gallery, or something like that, and
Sure.
people can say, oh, I like this Dapp, or I like this NFT art. You just get like an upvote or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and upvoting will essentially like stake your tokens, a small amount of tokens, and that goes to that art, but it actually goes through the big contracts that facilitates that routing. So it was an interesting use case, and I actually did see a couple of projects that did something similar in my work.
I'm curious, like how you guys have handled the twin networks, right? The Shiden and the Astar. I don't hear so much about Shiden anymore.
Shiden always had a very interesting position because it's a canary network, and as we put Astar as sort of the main brand.
Yeah.
I think that's the case with most Parachains that has two networks.
Yeah.
Right? And a canary network is such a unique, like very Dotsama thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it served us well, and it will serve us well, and we have more plans for Shiden in the future.
You're gonna keep it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we're actually going to change the marketing voice a little bit, and that's why, I mentioned like I wouldn't really consider myself as a typical CTO because, well, first I have a background in business, and I love marketing.
You do?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Actually, I feel like I'm more comfortable with business and marketing, and like the strategizing aspect of any team or a project rather than the technical details.
Okay.
Not that I don't like the details, it's just like that's not where I'm comfortable at. I feel like
You just happen to be talented at two things at once.
well,
It's tough. It's tough. I understand.
well, thank you, but I would say because this space has so many smart people,
Yeah.
I feel like my technical contribution is so minimal. Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit self-conscious about that. So I want to contribute in a different way. I still have the technical understanding, but I know if someone is better than me, why don't let them shine?
Yeah.
And Shiden, we want to have this marketing voice where it's if Kusama was expect chaos, Shiden is make chaos.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we're gonna
That'd be awesome.
Exactly, adding
Yeah.
WASM, EVM, so multi smart contract environment.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be wreaking
Oh,
havoc.
dude, that's such a great idea. That'll work. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't even know, but I talked with Alan, the technical lead of Moonbeam, and he also mentioned like Shiden has been apparently causing some chaos that we weren't aware of.
Oh, yeah?
After talking with them, because Shiden has a lot of collators. I think like 200, over 200. And that is apparently causing some issue with the Kusama block time. Yeah. And
really?
Yeah, and this is an ecosystem problem because Parachains has the right to have how many collators they want, right?
Of course.
So yeah, we're actually just like poking these holes. It's really interesting, yeah, and I feel like we should really use that, leverage that, and go a little bit more crazy with Shiden. If we feel like we feel like this palette that will never end up in Astar, but it's definitely useful with a lot of use cases for WASM contracts. Let's add them to Shiden. Let's add them to Shiden and let people just toy with it. Let's see what we can create. Some of the weirdest things that people love.
That's exciting. That's really exciting.
Exactly.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about community because something really cool about Astar is, I mean, you have a couple of like community projects popping up. They're kind of like VC marketing projects, kind of independent, but they're really committed to the brand. Is there anything missing from the community that you're hoping somebody will fill?
It's really hard to say because the thing about community is, I guess the whole point of a community is it's supposed to be organic. It's a place where we encourage people to really do what they want and create things that really benefits the entire ecosystem. And for us, we can't really. I guess it's really hard to control that. But when we see someone with a good idea and when someone is making some great moves, we catch them early. We provide them tech support. We provide them financial support through our incentivization mechanism and also through our builders program. And yeah, that's why I think a lot of those projects are growing quite fast. I guess what's missing is I would say some really innovative use cases are still missing. I mean, don't get me wrong. The projects we already have are really great. There are, of course, some controversial ones. There are some things that I'm not a huge fan of. But at the same time, I can't really. Yeah, I feel like what we have is definitely in the right step. But what we really want is a use case where we're using blockchain not just for financial applications,
Right.
but for something that we never even imagined. I want to see people use blockchain for things that like people, normal average people care about,
Yeah.
and they don't have to know if it's based on a blockchain technology or not at all. They just use it. No one really cares or has to know about which blockchain, or even if it uses a blockchain. Then actually I am making something similar as a side project. Sort of a use case for blockchains that's only possible because it's in a blockchain, and yet people don't have to really understand blockchain, how it works. It's a game that will be deployed on Shiden, just to like, just as a way to store items and character skins.
Cool.
Yeah, but people be logging in through their wallet without knowing that they're actually logging in with the wallet. And it's a P2P game, it's completely done through P2P. It's a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
And they can still have items and constable accounts even though they're playing on a game without any central server. That's only possible because it's in the blockchain.
Amazing, man. Okay, now just before we go here, I wanted to ask you, because you also said you're interested in marketing, the whole narrative of Dotsama. Marketing is like a huge problem in Dotsama.
Yeah.
Right? What's missing from the story of Dotsama?
When it comes to Polkadot and Dotsama ecosystem, it's the XCM use cases, I would say. We don't have a concrete like why do we need XCMP? How does this change the game?
Yeah.
And I know like we talked about bridge hacks and how like XCMP is like secure by nature and all that, and I agree. Like absolutely, it's fast, it's cheap, but that's not we're not using XCMP just for bridge.
Right.
We can do much more than that.
Right.
It's because the way it's XCM itself is a language, and it's an entire language that you can use to compose any arbitrary transactions, any calls, has any. Well, I mean not any, but like still a lot of different arbitrary data. That goes beyond just asset transfers, but NFT transfers or calling a remote function from another parachain, or even calling a contract from another parachain, from your parachain. The detailed implementation, the cryptography, the cryptographic scheme behind it, they're all different from blockchain to blockchain.
Okay.
So, and also the way how the blocks are finalized is also different depending on the consensus algorithm as well. But how can we sort of make this generic instead of having a case-by-case implementation? Why don't we just have a common standard that abstracts everything? We don't need to care what encryption scheme this blockchain uses. We just need to know what's a concept location. How can we like point a location in this blockchain? So that's essentially that's what XCM does. It's a set of those abstract universal concepts that every blockchain has, every consensus machine has. Locations, assets is also a concept that every blockchain has.
Right.
The concept of blocks finality and concept of transact with an arbitrary encoded data. That is also universal.
Do you see it expanding outside the alliance of Dotsama as well?
That's the goal. What's the use of a language if it's only usable within a very specific closed environment, right?
That's right.
People tend to just focus on what we already have, and they tend to recreate whatever we have, but with XCMP or XCM, like using XCM. And I feel like that's just such a waste. Like, we can do much more. And at Astar Network, what we want to do, like what our primary goal here is first have the dApps, the unique use cases within our network as well, but let them use other parachains functions as part of their logic. So that way, every parachain is unique. And I think that's what I love about the Dotsama ecosystem is everyone can come up with these crazy ideas and create that into a blockchain. We're aiming to create a controller contract that represents each parachains, and the developers can just import those instructions or actually interface and call a function of a parachain without even having to know what XCM is,
Right.
And just use it as part of the logic.
You mean people who are developing within the Astar ecosystem,
Yes.
they'll just have access to everything that's going on in other ecosystems, and they'll just be able to like, I want this, I want this, I want this.
Exactly, yeah.
So smart.
Mix and match. It's like parachain as a service in a way.
Yeah, cool, man.
But of course, there's so many challenges and security concerns that
Sure.
we don't really have the answer for yet.
Right.
But that's why we're also in this Parachain Summit to discuss about these stuff, like understand what's the limitations, what's the best practices, how should we standardize things.
Yeah.
And I think in the future we're going to be seeing more of these meetups, not necessarily with parity involvement, but just amongst the parachains to get things down and work together and get these big brains together to create something that everyone's going to be like, damn, I wish I was in Dotsama.
Dude, I'm very thankful that you brought your big brain to this interview here, and you shared all that with our listeners. I hope it inspires a lot of people to get involved, and thank you just very much for everything you're building and taking the time away from all the other stuff you'd like to do to build what you're building now. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Cool, buddy. Talk to you soon.